Hey, what's up guys? And yeah guys, this is the final episode to What If Naruto was given a gift that will change everything. I just want to thank you all for following me on this journey once again guys. Thank you for helping me and thank you for all the comments and likes and subscribe that this video has gotten, and thank you all. But don't worry, because you guys already know that new What Ifs are coming up soon for you guys to enjoy. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy guys. I also posted a brand new episode of What If Naruto was betrayed by Hagoromo over on Anime King 3. Link will be at the top of the description for you guys to enjoy. On this channel, I post a new episode of What If Naruto was a direct descendant of the sage. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy as well guys. Remember, if you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. Thank you for all of your help and support, and yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, as Naruto was surprised, as the man had just appeared so suddenly, as Jiraiya spoke to him like he knew him. As Jiraiya was surprised to see Yaiko here, but he had Nagato eyes. Jiraiya was confused, but the battle started. As they started to clash, as Jiraiya was separated from Naruto, as Nagato would not allow Jiraiya to go over there to assist Naruto, as the battle was ferocious between them, as Naruto was using all of his abilities, the pains and the summonings, all attacking him at once, as Jiraiya had to focus as he started, going through the process of summoning Ma and Pa. Once the Toad got there though, there was a different story. As the battle began, the real battle, as Jiraiya entered Sage mode. Naruto team, who was passing by, felt the influx of Naruto chakra as he called upon the demonic chakra inside of him, as they made their way. As Naruto quickly told him the situation, and with that Teiko went off as there was another pain in the forest. And everything kicking into high gear, Nagato realized that everything was going to hell, as he never expected for a Naruto team to show up like this. And Jiraiya's new body was incredibly durable, so Nagato had to watch as all of his paths were bring down one by one, as it left him alone. But there was something that he didn't realize. With Nagato being the only path controlling Tendo now, Tendo was more powerful, as he could use all of their abilities. And he quickly showed them that when they started engaging, as he ended up slicing Jiraiya's arm off, knocking Jiraiya down to the ground as he took on all of them. They tried to team up as a group, but he still brought them down, as he even knocked away Saru, injuring the man. As Nezumi rushed in as well, moving as fast as possible, but she also got put down as well. As a bad call was made, as Nezumi got hurt. Instead of getting stabbed in her heart, she twisted her body, but it was still a fatal wound, and the only person that could heal it was Natty, and he was so far away in the village. As Nezumi started to breathe even more shallow, as Naruto watched it, as he watched her breath slowly leaving her, he started to lose it. So yeah guys, so basically that's what I thought. You guys can switch across to the PlayStation TikTok for yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? You see, Jinchuriki, said Tendo, as Naruto was still over the body of Nezumi. The more you resist, the more pain I am forced to inflict. This could all be avoided if you simply shut up, said Naruto, as it came out as a growl, as he gently placed Nezumi down on the ground. She was still alive, barely, but she wouldn't last long with a wound like that, as Snavi was too far away. She was the only one that could help Nezumi now, and they couldn't get her back to the village on time. As Naruto felt a deep, burning rage, unlike anything he has ever felt before, the anger of his past, it all felt petty now. What had he been mad about? Other people ignoring him, a lack of recognition. That was nothing, it was meaningless. in front of this pain that bubbled up inside of him from somewhere dark, twisted and cold. As it turned, coming together to an all-consuming fire that burned inside of him. It would have burned him alive, consuming from the inside, but he grabbed it as he wrestled it to submission. As the chains retracted back into him, the Kyuubi chakra started to leak from his body. Pain observed this calmly, feeling the surge of chakra within the teen in front of him. It looked like the blonde was on fire, tentacles of chakra leaking from his body. A chain suddenly snapped out of Naruto's body. It too looked like it was on fire, and Pain hand came up, the Predapat, flaring to life. His eyes widened though when he felt that chain slice through his cheek. More followed, and this time he called upon his ability. The chain slammed into a wall of force that thankfully held up, allowing him to jump back. A hand came up to his cheek, no blood, ran from the corpse, but he could still feel the edges of the cut. That should not have been possible. No chakra should have been able to breach his Gakido. Did the Kyuubi give the chains some new construct of power? No, impossible. For the entire fight he was using the Fox power, and he wasn't able to get past his defensive before, so why now? As Naruto staggered slightly as he moved forward, Pain realized he must be still, trying to control the influx of power. As he shot forward, intending to end this while he could, all the others were disabled. It was just him and the Jinchuriki now. If he could end this quickly, his job would be complete. A chakra rod appeared in his hand as he ran. To make sure Naruto had no time to recover, he threw his hand forward. Universal pull! Naruto flew forward, but chains shot from his back and anchored him down to the ground. His body hung in the air suspended, as his mouth twisted into a vicious grin. Die! More chains exploded from his body. Because of Pain universal pull, they were moving even faster. He cut it off, but it was too late. The chains came forward instinctively, calling his prey the path. This time he saw what happened. Chakra was absorbed from the chains. Well, the flaming layer that was coating them. He suddenly realized exactly what that was. It was excess energy. The chains were so dense, so packed with chakra, they were visibly leaking. His Gakido couldn't keep up. He stole the power from the technique, but the remaining constructs still keep up to break through his defense and got to him. He scowled as one of his extra arms were ripped clean off by a chain, but he continued his charge. If he could stab the Jinchuriki, it wouldn't matter how potent his technique was. He would lose control of his chakra. He wasn't really paying attention to where Naruto had positioned himself. A chain shot backwards, curling around the hilt of Nezumi blade. Pain reached Naruto in time, but his rod was slapped aside by the sturdy blade. As Naruto launched himself forward, as he landed right on the man's cloak. As he started to wail on him, Pain, the arm that he had created from his back, tried to tear Naruto off, but Naruto's strength, combined with the Kyuubi's, was monstrous. His eyes pulsed as Naruto was thrown back, along with everything in that 5-meter radius. As Naruto's body was sent hurtling through the sky like a missile, as chains exploded out of his body in mid-air. The moment they touched ground, they dig into it, as they launched him once again. He was relentless, fast, strong, throwing himself at Pain again, and again, and again, and again. Wounds that Pain inflicted healed within seconds, as Naruto barely felt them, but every blow that Naruto dealt, the Predapat did his best to use the chakra to heal the Pat's body. And Naruto was not slowing down. Claws, fists, and chains. This wasn't the Anfu, but this wasn't the animalistic of a Bichu either. This was primal, but it was perfectly controlled. It was furious, but it was directed, and it was all being directed towards Pain. As he held out his hand, Almighty, push! As he poured more power into it this time, forcing the blonde flying backwards. As Naruto caught himself in the trees, Pain flashed Juhansign summoning Jutsu, as he wanted something strong. The moment the rhino came though, it was already wrapped up in chains. As it never got the charge, it was lifted and thrown towards Pain like a house. As he dismissed it before it landed, as Naruto burst out of the smoke. Pain felt the connection to the Predapat's body. As he threw it right in front of Naruto, he needed to slow Naruto charge. But Naruto tore it in half, without even blinking. You're trying my patience, boy, said Pain, as he leaped back, giving enough space between them, as he had the time to do this. Shibuku no Tensei, he said, as he released a small black ball in the air. As Naruto found himself slowing down, he was being drawn back by something. The earth started to crack, a small dust and leaf. Then tiny piece of the earth started to fly towards that thing. As he stabbed his chains into the earth, but the earth simply ripped apart, pulling him. As Naruto was sent slammed as he smashed into the tiny moon. Pain eyes already have a look of victory in them. This was the technique that the Sage of Six Paths used to create the moon. How can a brat like this ever escape it? Naruto fought as he was on the edge, as he used his chains to crush the incoming boulders. The chains were made of chakra and wasn't affected by gravity, but his body would succumb and start to become rather heavy, and he will give in. As Naruto tried to use his fire jutsu again, but the flames were pulled backwards as his chain slashed at the rock, trying to dig inside to destroy the black spear, but it was too late. Pain was surprised and the blonde simply stopped. Standing there, he has given up. Pain's eyes narrowed as he saw the aura around Naruto swell. He was drawing on more power. Despite Pain knowing that his technique would work, he felt rather uneasy. Naruto held his hand out as chakra started swirling in his palm. Pain recognized Jiraiya's technique, but something was off about it. The swirling spear of chakra was not blue, it was gold. As he focused more chakra to his eyes, only for them to widen. It wasn't Jiraiya's technique at all, but a different version of it, comprised entirely of tiny, delicate chains that spin against one another. With a flame-like aura covering the teen, it almost looked like he was holding a miniature sun in his palm. Pain looked at it. The way Jiraiya used it, it was a very short-range jutsu. What could the boy actually hope from? He went quiet as Naruto threw it. As Naruto pulled back his arm and threw the technique at Pain. That should have been impossible. No chakra construct should have sustained itself so far from his creator, without a direct connection towards the creator. As Pain understood, flames of chakra. The same reason chains could bypass the Prita path. The chain rushing can survive as long as the aura around it dissipate instead of the technique itself. Without the Kyuubi's chakra, something like this would have been impossible, but the boy had it. He activated his Prita path, but at the last moment, the aura dissipated. Chains exploded out of it like a bomb. Everything was struck. The ground, the trees, Pain. But the thing kept on going, as chains reversed and draw everything they spear into back. As the chains lashed onto the rocks and pulled them towards Pain. It was like a twisted irony. It was like our own version of his ability that he just used. As his body was smashed against them, Tendo was too damaged he could no longer sustain the mini moon. As his body collapsed down, crashed into the ground. It was humiliating, lying here in a broken body. But he could feel the boy approaching, and he wasn't willing to accept that he had been defeated. The moment he spotted the boy, though, he knew this was it. Naruto's eyes no longer glowed with the Kyuubi's chakra. Any sneak attack, any trick Pain could have pulled in his weakened state, it would have been a failure. As Naruto was focused, "You're just a feral beast," he spat. Beast. Maybe. I kill people. Sometime I enjoyed it. Someone a lot wiser than I am told me that being a shinobi is a job, like any other. We just kill people instead. But I know the truth, and beast is pretty accurate. But feral. All your visual prowess and you can't even see them. All of these chains tie me down. As he placed a hand around his neck, the Hokage hold this one, holding on to it like a noose. As he shake his foot, these anchor me to Konoha, telling me I cannot live anywhere else. As he looked at his wrist, and these connect me to my sensei. As Naruto reached to touch his heart, but Pain saw no more. As a chain lashed out from Naruto and severed his spine. This one annoyed me the most, because I didn't even see it being tied, said Naruto. As Naruto stood there, as he looked at the body of Pain, this man called himself a god. He had met a real god, as Pain could not comprehend to even be on the same level at what he felt when he met Jashin, as she could still feel her symbol keeping the Kyuubi at bay. Pain simply didn't look godly now, half naked, his legs and hands twisted and bent, broken. Good work, kid, Jiraiya says. He made his way over. He was still using that word technique, and Naruto was sure that that was the only thing keeping him going, as he was clutching at the stump of his left arm. As he was rubbing something brown and glue into the wound, Naruto did not ask. Need a hand, Naruto said, as he surprised himself by the flipping question. Hardy har har, said Jiraiya. The two toes on his shoulder remained quiet. As Naruto looked back to the body, his eyes widened as he turned, but Jiraiya grabbed him. She's fine. You can go see her later. What? The wound was lethal, but I made arrangements to get her and your envoy friends back to Konoha. as Naruto spotted the group in a distance, as they were currently being swallowed by a large toad. Normally, her wounds would have been fatal. So would Saru. Lucky for them, toads are awesome in all kinds of ways. Toad oil have life restorative properties. Not enough to save them, but enough to at least get them back to the village. Then I'm going, said Naruto. Of all the time for you to get sentimental, no, we're not done yet. As he stood there for a moment, still not used to one hand. I really hope Snarly can do something about this. This and the others are just puppets. We still need to go and confront the real threat. In our condition, Naruto said. He wasn't exactly hurt. The Kyuubi chakra made sure of that. But he wasn't exactly fresh. That much power coursing through his body left a toll. I'm not thrilled about it either, Jiraiya said. If you hadn't noticed, I'm not as handy as I once was. But it's better than letting Nagato regain his strength and do all this over again. As Naruto glanced over and grimaced. Fine. You have a way of finding him then? I think so, said Jiraiya, as he ripped one of the piercing from pain, as he curled his finger around it. You're going to have to tell me about, as Naruto motioned towards Jiraiya's appearance. All of this at some point. Sorry, boyo, said Paul. Mote me a Boku secret. Toad summoners only. As Naruto glared at him, but Jiraiya snapped his eyes open. This way. And with that, the both of them headed off. It wasn't hard to find out where Nagato was hiding. A large tree that was made of camouflage sheets of paper, as Naruto knew that it must have been some kind of jutsu of some kind, because that would have been impossible to make by normal means. It stood out when you knew what to look for, but if he was passing by he wouldn't even know. As they approached, a section of the tree parted, to reveal it was entirely hollow. Naruto never heard of paper ninjutsu before, but Jiraiya didn't think this was strange as he made his way in. It was dark inside with a few cracks in the paper. Let sun flow in. As Naruto caught sight of a sickly man, propped up in the machine, he leaned forward on twig-like arms that were plunged down into the machine. The man's skin was unhealthy pale, as his face looked like it was almost to the point of completely devouring, and just remaining bones. Lengthy red hair, and there were black rods, a lot of them coming from his back, like a porcupine. If it wasn't for the Rinnegan, Naruto would have never believed that this was the man he fought before. Nagato. Sensei. What happened to you, said Jiraiya. Life, Sensei. A new voice answered, a woman. As she fluttered into existence as she peeled off the walls from paper. As Naruto didn't even sense her, he was now aware for what she might have planted around the room, as she seemed to be in perfect health, floating off the ground, with paper wings. Conan, Jiraiya greeted a sad smile. You've grown into quite the beauty, and you are as incorrigible as ever, she said. I'm glad you continue with your origami. You can't believe how sad I was when I heard that such a beautiful ability was stolen from the world and I heard you three had died. An inappropriate time for flattery, don't you think, Sensei? She asked. Jiraiya. Tired smile grew a little. Never, he said. I'm surprised you came, Jiraiya, Nagato said, throwing away with his sentimentality, as he looked at the man sternly. You should know that tired and wounded as you are, your victory is far from assured. As chains creep from Naruto's back, as Conan fly a bit higher, as her wings tilted. But Jiraiya placed a hand on her shoulder, bringing him in. As Nagato tilted his head as Conan inclined. I don't think threats are going to get anyone anything here, said Jiraiya. So that raises a question. What exactly do you expect to happen here, said Nagato. You don't think that we will stand down because of pure sentimentality. Regardless of the destruction of my paths, Akatsuki's goal has not changed. And what goal is that, Jiraiya said, anger creeping into his tone. What could you possibly want with the Jinchurikis? The same as you. The same dream you share with 3 hungry orphans. The same dream Yaiko spoke and kept alive while we fought for our country. Peace, that is what the Akatsuki in all of its forms has always fought for. Peace? You have to be insane to think that you will ever achieve peace with violence. Conan shifted. So that is what this was all about. The act, the moniker. Pretend to be a god. You believe you can simply cower people into peace. That's tyranny, Nagato. I thought you better than that. I thought you knew better than that. You are older than us, Jiraiya. Do you remember the aftermath of the Second Shinobi War? Jiraiya simply nodded. I know you want me to say that there were peace. That peace always followed times of great tragedy. But that is a child view of the world, Nagato. That wasn't peace. That was simply the waiting period for the world next war, while the world recovered their power, then to go up again, and start it all over again. Does that matter to normal people, said Nagato. Do you think the farmer care if tensions are growing between shinobi villages? He only knows that right now there is peace, and that he can grow food to provide for his family. I agree that the wars are an elegant thing though. They leave ruin in their wake, poverty, homelessness, orphans. And your answer is, A weapon, said Nagato. A weapon of such terrible destruction. Just the name was fear and destroy any sentimentality towards war. A weapon. From the combined power of the Betrothed, Jiraiya said with realization. And you think that you or any one man should possess that kind of power? What about when you die? Who's gonna prevent this weapon from being used? Who said anything about preventing it from being used? Asked Nagato. I would love to see my weapon used. A constant reminder of what will happen for anyone who caused suffering and war. And when humans forget and return to their nature, the weapon will be used once again. A true cycle of suffering and peace. So that's it, Jiraiya said. You sacrificed thousands for a fleeting peace. You knew that wouldn't last forever. Better than the hundreds of thousands that died when the Shinobi Wars happened. Better a clean instant death than a slow, rotten battle that drained an entire nation, causing suffering. There shouldn't be a cost or peace, Jiraiya said. There should be a sheer understanding. A transcendent above the petty cycles. Nagato tore one of his arms to the machine of wet sculch as he slammed it back down. There is always a cost. Yaiko already paid it, and I intend to see that his sacrifice was not for nothing. He calmed himself, placing his hand back in the machine and resetting his features. You're just the idealist you ever were, Sensei. I thought that you of all people would understand what I'm trying to do here. Real, achievable peace. Just because something is doable doesn't mean it should be done. It seems that he will never understand. A new player spoke up as Toby walked out of the shadows, like he was there all along. Madara, Konan said. Madara? Said Naruto. As he was speaking more to himself than anyone else, Toby caught it all the same, looking his way. As he traded his orange mask for a smooth, white one that looked like a helmet, with Megatamas cut over eye holes. As he discarded his Akatsuki cloak, wearing a purple obi, but it was still Toby. Oh, did I tell a bit of lie when I tell you that my name was Toby? How dreadfully rude of me. As the man turned, as Naruto saw two Sharingan peering out of the eye holes. As the first thought came to his head was Itachi. But no, he knew about the Uchiha from Anvu. This personality. If this was really Madara Uchiha, he should have been 100 years old by now. What are you doing here, Madara? Said Nagato. What I'm doing here? I'm distracting you all, obviously. There was a moment of confusion, then Nagato cried out. Something was crawling over his body, something black like a shadow. As he quickly overtook his body, covering up the right side, the Rinnegan eye was replaced by a solid, yellow orb that stared at the crowd. No mouth was there, but the voice spoke. That's better. It's been some time since I have to take a body forcefully. As his tone was low and dark, Zetsu, Konan hissed, looking torn between helping Nagato and attacking Toby. What is the meaning of this? The reason she didn't move because she didn't know what he could do to Nagato at this stage. It's quite simple, Toby or Madara answered. Our dear Nagato took a loan a long time ago. I'm just here to collect. What are you talking about? Said Nagato. It looked like he took a great deal of effort to even say that much. Those eyes in your skull, said Toby. Did you really think some no-name orphan in the back of the rain would develop such a legendary dojutsu? Of course not. Only Madara Uchiha has the visual prowess to develop such powerful eyes. You, my wonderful little puppet, has just been keeping them warm for me. And now, I want them back. He didn't even move as a barrage of paper shurikens ripped through his body, passing through him. As he looked to see where Konan was floating. Konan, as adorable as ever. I think we know how this particular dance go, don't we? Do we? Said Naruto, as he was staying quiet, regaining his energy, and now that there was the prospect of fighting, he felt ready. As Toby glanced towards Naruto, but his tone still had that funny edge with it. Naruto-kun, I'm afraid you have to wait a little while before I deal with you. Important things are being happening, backs are being stabbed and such. You know how it is. I won't let you hurt him, Konan said, as she looked over at Nagato, as she was torn to what to do, as she didn't know what Zetsu can do to him in this state. Harm him? Oh dear. I won't touch a single hair on his head. Nagato pulled his arm from the construction, as he started to go through hand sign that Jiraiya did not recognize. Stop, he grunted out, his arm shaking as he fought Zetsu. I'm afraid you have one last role to play, Nagato. One that your entire life has been leading towards. The hand seals continued and everyone could feel the enormous pressure building behind the technique. As Zetsu spoke with Nagato's voice. Geru, Ryan, Ten. Nagato's scream as that sword pierced through his chest. Zetsu screamed as he was furious. As the technique was cut off, the chakra dissipating harmlessly. As the creature started to swirl in place, vanishing into a vortex similar to what Toby did. Sure enough, Toby was on the machine, wiping his hands as he left the blades sticking through Nagato's chest. None of that now. For him to come back at this moment wouldn't be to anyone's advantage. Well, it isn't to my advantage, but that's the only one that really matters. Nagato Konan cried as she sent another furious onslaught towards Tobi. The man skipped away as they simply passed through him as she flew to her friend's side, but Nagato, blood was leaking from his mouth, the sword embedded through his heart. As Naruto heard, Nagato whispered something to Konan, but he did not hear exactly what. His breath ran out a moment later, and he was gone. Well, that solved problem number 2, said Tobi. Konan looked up, tears streamed on her cheeks, but she had a fire burning in her eyes. I'll kill you, you bastard! Well, that wasn't very angel-like at all. What would the good people of Hinari say if they saw their Tenji-sama now? They might not notice, I suppose. Dead gods are a once-in-a-lifetime sight, after all. Konan, wings spread out fully as she raised her hand. You will burn for this, Madara! As the tree started to wither, to show that every single piece of bark was an explosive tag. As Naruto was surprised, the tree was large. So many explosives, she was controlling them all. But how would that work against a man that could pass through anything? But suddenly, she fell out of the air, unconscious, as Jiraiya caught her. Well, that was anticlimactic, said Tobi. Have you always been the fun killer, Jiraiya? Or is that just a recent thing? Maybe I just don't like seeing pretty ladies lured into traps, said Jiraiya. Oh well, said Tobi, revealing the gun bay that he was hiding behind his back. I guess I cannot rely on manipulation, well, with emotion to get everyone. As Naruto didn't know what the battle fan was about, but Jiraiya was eyeing the thing dangerously. I don't know where you got that weapon from, but you're no Madara Uchiha. Again, I just can't seem to slip one by you, huh? You know, you're one of the first people to actually be skeptical of my claim. I know, surprised me too. I guess shinobis are superstitious as they are idiotic. Still, I didn't expect you to be quite so handy with your deductions. Who are you? Said Jiraiya. Seriously, nothing. I thought that was a pretty good pun, but I handed it to you. I won't ask again, Jiraiya says he tense. Tobi shrugged, as his entire demeanor changed. Dark. No longer playful. Does it matter really? His voice, no deep. It does when somebody's running around a pair of Sharingan, pretending to be Madara Uchiha, and manipulating the Akatsuki. I am nobody, a memory at most. Not good enough, said Jiraiya. You will understand soon. Everyone will. Jiraiya boy! One of the toads suddenly cried out too late. A root burst from the ground as Jiraiya was sent sailing right through the paper tree. Tobi crossed the distance to grab Naruto. As Naruto pulled back but Tobi was fast, he caught his wrist in the iron grip. As Naruto felt that strange tugging sensation, his hand warped. Naruto exploded change from his body in reflex. Tobi hissed in pain as one of them scored his arm, as the swirling thing completely vanished when Tobi jumped away from him. It has been a while since he gone full hedgehog like that. Those damn chains again, said Tobi. As Naruto drew upon the Kyuubi's chakra, he knew he wouldn't need to hold for long. He was already so exhausted as he sprinted forward to make it count. He had went through too much to die to this clown. As Tobi moved forward, flashing through hand signs, 100 white-hot fire flames came in front of Naruto. As Naruto formed chains around him, shurikens were embedded inside the technique as they stabbed into his flesh, but he did not care as he burst through the fireballs. As they were pushed out of his skin as his wounds started to heal, chains shot from his body towards Tobi. Most of them scraped against the ground, carving out the earth. A few of them made their mark, impacting the old gun bay. As Naruto was surprised when his chains suddenly melt into the gun bay, making the thing hum with energy. Before he could react, Tobi swung the thing forward, releasing off the pent-up chakra in a single burst. As Naruto was sent sailing, his body creating a trench to the earth. As he heard Jiraiya fighting outside. Didn't anyone ever tell you not to jump through strange techniques? Guess even Anbu couldn't beat this berserker out of you. You'll be surprised, said Naruto, as he burst into smoke as Tobi spun around. Naruto wasn't behind him though. Tobi was thrown off his feet as Naruto burst from the earth. As Tobi tried to swipe the chains out with the fan, but Naruto knew better now. As a chain coiled around the weapon, not swirling into it. He couldn't pull it from Tobi, it was attached by a cable like Hidan's weapon. But the chains went up as they crushed. Tobi cried out his arm was crushed mercilessly. The fan fell out of manga fingers as the man dropped to his knees, looking at his broken hand. As Naruto wasted no time with the chain spear right through Madara's heart, as he slumped over dead. Something was wrong though. Through everything that he has been today, was this really what everything had been building up to? As he felt the mark that Jashin left on his skin, it was like it was calling out to him. Chains lashed out of his back without warning, and he heard metal clashing. Something shattered and so did the world. The genjutsu faded and Naruto turned, observing Tobi, who was impaled. A chain came up and scratched him, but nothing changed. This was real. One of his chains must have cracked the man's mask, as he was now on the ground. A fairly average face, scar on the one side, and blood leaking from his mouth. The two Sharingan seemed to spin. Tobi tried to speak, but all that came out was blood. His right arm then came off his body like a pile of flesh. "What the hell are you?" said Naruto. Tobi only struggled, his body secured by chains to make more of it. Nah. He couldn't get to finish that what he was saying, as a chain ripped right through his throat. Jiraiya came back a moment later dragging something, looking vaguely like a person. "This day just keep getting weirder and weirder," he said. "What was yours?" Naruto asked. He looked at Tobi's corpse. It felt like at any moment he would spring back to life, like all this was some strange genjutsu. An artificial plant person. You? No idea. You recognize him? As Jiraiya looked at the body, Jiraiya was shocked. "No," he said. As Naruto did not call him on it. Today was just a very long day. "Are we done here then?" As Jiraiya looked around the tree as he had cone on his shoulder. "Yeah, I think for now at least, we're done. Finally, let's go home. Your stupid border mission will have to wait." For the first time, Jiraiya heard Naruto call Konoha home. As he chuckled. "Let's go, kid," he said. Time skip. The Hin rain. Yes, they fit their name. As Naruto let the rain wash over him. "I didn't think that funerals were kind of affair," Haku said, as she had been smart enough to bring her umbrella, but he was certain that she wouldn't mind the rain either. Cold really didn't bother a ice user. "They're not. I think they're pointless waste of time," he said. All the same, he kept his voice low that Konan and Jiraiya could not hear. "But they gave me a good fight, and Jiraiya insisted I be here." He couldn't see why. Tobi might have been the one to heal Nagato, but without the destruction of his paths, he wouldn't be so vulnerable. Still, Konan didn't say anything about his presence. So here he was, in the back end of the rain, in a system cave, where the body of Nagato and Yahiko laid. The graves were simple, dug into the hard rock with earth jutsu. As Jiraiya had right, the symbol light Rinnegan on one, and the headband of the hidden rain on one, scored through like a missing in. As Konan placed a paper flower, and each of them said some words. As Naruto was thankfully brought Haku with him, as he felt out of place. With her here, he didn't feel so awkward. He was confused though. As Konan, was treating Jiraiya like he was her mentor again. She was technically the leader of the hidden rain now, which is the reason why she wasn't in, the custody. As for the Akatsuki, Konan confirmed it. The members disbanded as soon as they realized Pain was dead. It was a mixed blessing. As a group, they were more organized, but you could keep eye on them. As rogue agents, they were less effective to what they can do, but they were spread out and less, difficult to handle. As Konan had provided them with a list, but it was of little use now. But still, Naruto felt rather anxious. Thanks to that list, he now knew exactly what he wanted to do. The thought of all those S-class fights was intoxicating. "Are you going to say anything?" Haku asked. As Naruto realized that Konan and Jiraiya had moved to the side, talking amongst themselves. "And say what? They're dead." Haku shrugged as she moved up to the graves. "You came, didn't you? That must mean something." "Like I said, Jiraiya made me." As she smiled. "We both know that isn't true." He looked at her as he clicked his tongue. "I let you get away with too much nowadays." As she folded her arms, as she gave him a small smirk. "Well, I guess you have to punish me later, Naruto-sama," she said. As he almost laughed. "You seem different." "Well, I had a lot of time to think recently about my place in life and what I want to do with myself," she said. As that sounded a lot of his own thoughts lately. And he said. She just smiled. As Naruto sighed. "Fine, let's try this out. However pointless it is." As he made his way to Nagato's grave. "I didn't know you." He trailed off, feeling foolishly, all of a sudden. As he looked at Haku, but she was looking at Jiraiya. As she was looking at his arm, Tsunade wasn't able to reattach the original limb, but she was able to fashion a replacement from the same white goop that was comprised of Tobi. Naruto sighed. "This seemed ridiculous. But you were a good fight. You might have been trying to kidnap me to make some super weapon, or whatever, but you clearly thought what you were doing was right. To be honest, I think peace sounds boring, but then again, I guess you did call me a feral beast, so you might have been right on that front. I suppose what I mean, I have no idea what I mean." As he sighed, Haku came beside him. "Feel any different?" "No," he said. "It was just as pointless as I thought." A corpse on the ground and me talking to myself. Maybe it's not for everyone. What did you say, Naruto asked? Me? Nothing, of course. I didn't know them, she said. As Naruto turned towards her, as she gave him that smile. You did this on purpose. Should I expect a much harsher punishment than she asked? Damn right, he said. And that only seemed to be making her more happier. As Jiraiya came over. I think we're about to wrap up here. Konan needs to get back to our people, and we need to report back to the old man. We got a lot of reports to fill out. What will happen to the rain? Haku asked, curious. From what you told me, they look to Pain as a god. I can't imagine it be an easy transition. Apparently, Nagato didn't make that many appearances, and for a while, Konan should be able to imitate him with her paper clones. She will have plenty of time to figure it out as he turned to see her flying away. She's a smart girl, and I said I'll come by every often and see how she's doing. She seemed to have accepted you rather quickly after everything that has happened, said Naruto. Konan was always a reserved little girl. I can't imagine all of this ever sitting right with her. I think she would make a good leader for her village. You didn't really answer the question, said Naruto. Jiraiya simply smirked. And you still haven't told me what is with that transformation back there. Didn't you heard, Fukasaku-sama? Toad, users only. Unless you finally accepted the brilliance that is me, and let me take you on as an apprentice. Nice try, but I prefer learning useful techniques, not the best way to spy on a woman in a bathtub. Ah, my young pupil. You'd be rather surprised of the overlap between the two. Besides, I'm sure I could come up with something special for your chains. Your young lady friend will love it, I can guarantee. Pervert, brat, cripple, dungeon master. As Haku smiled from behind them as she watched him. As she was glad that Naruto has found so many people to fill in his jagged edges. And she was glad that she found him as well. Haku, get over here. I'll hold him down. You freeze his hands off. The old hag was too generous to make him still be able to write that garbage. She smiled. It was a rather strange relationship, but she couldn't imagine it any other way as she caught up with them. But guys, and this is where this comes to an end. I just want to thank you all for following me on this journey. Thank you all for being with me so long on this journey, guys. All the likes on this, all the comments, all the views, all of you that came to this video and subscribe. Thank you for that, guys. So this is the end. And don't worry, you know guys, as usual, I'll be posting new What If soon. And also, you guys can go ahead and check out What If Naruto was betrayed by Hagoromo. I post a new episode over on Anime King 3. Link will be at the top of the description, and on this channel I post a brand new episode of What If Naruto was the direct descendant of the sage. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy. So yeah, without further ado, goodbye guys. See ya.